The slideshow is haunted, so I'm going to just put this here and just go with this. Hello, thank you so much. So my name is Colin Wright. I am very, very fortunate to live a very unusual lifestyle. I move to a new country every 4 months and do my best to live like a local. And that country is decided on by my blog readers. They vote on what country I move to. And while there, I write books. I write books for a living. I'm an author. And I write books about travel and about business and philosophy, relationships, science fiction novels, kind of whatever's interesting to me at the moment. And I feel very, very fortunate to be able to pursue these interests, these many interests of mine that I geek out about all the time, and to be able to do this for a living, to share it with other people for a living. And the reason that I'm able to do this, it's not happenstance. It was a very intentionally cultivated lifestyle. And I'd like to talk to you about that idea of intentionality. But first, I want to talk to you about a shirt. A shirt. And it's a shirt that we all have, probably. I'm guessing most of us have this shirt. It's the shirt that when you wake up in the morning and you go into your dresser, you know, and you open up the shirt drawer, you take it out and you look at it, kind of maybe try it on. It doesn't quite go with everything else that you're wearing. And it's like shaped a little weird. Maybe it's a little boxy, a little short. Like the sleeve like is a blousy, weird shape. It doesn't quite fit you. It's not a good fit for you and what you're trying to get out of a shirt. And so you fold it back up and you put it back in the drawer. Maybe put some other shirts on top of it so you don't have to deal with it again for a while. And it sucks because it's a really nice shirt. You spent a little bit of money on it, but it doesn't quite fit you. And so maybe someday you will wear this shirt, but not today. And about 7 years ago, I found myself going through that shirt routine where I go in, take out the shirt, and look at it. But on that day, I didn't follow through with the rest of the routine. On that day, I crushed it in my hand and said, "Not today, shirt." And I threw it on the floor. What had changed? Well, I realized on that day, 7 years ago, that I was ostensibly successful. I was doing really well professionally. I was running a branding studio out in Los Angeles, and I was a young person making a great deal of money and experiencing professional success. And like a lot of young people who make a great deal of money for the first time in their lives, I had bought a lot of stuff. And I'd filled my townhouse with stuff, and I'd filled my drawers with stuff. And so I had all this excess clothing. And holding up that shirt really made apparent something that I was thinking for a while. Because I was thinking of recalibrating my life to try to move away from the work hard all the time to make as much money as possible lifestyle that I was enjoying in some ways, but was not truly fulfilling. It wasn't allowing me to do the things that I wanted to do. And I was thinking, well, maybe I could figure out a lifestyle, a way that I could travel, a way that I could go out and see the world. All these places I was hearing about, but I don't know if you know anything about the American education system. We don't learn much about other countries. And so I was really hoping to get out and see some of these other countries and see the real people there rather than what you hear on Fox News. And so I was looking at all this stuff, and suddenly these things that I saw as a representation of how well I had done seemed like anchors. They were a bunch of anchors holding me back because I'd have to do something with them. And they made sense in this space while I was living there, but if I wanted to travel, I would have to do something with all of this stuff. And so I was thinking, well, maybe I'll get a smaller apartment just for the stuff. You know, my shirts and things can have their own place. And I'll just pay for that while I'm traveling. So there'll be this weird Colin stuff apartment somewhere in the United States as I travel. Or maybe just a storage space somewhere that I can keep my stuff. But looking at that shirt, this valuable shirt, it was nice. It was really a somewhat expensive shirt. And in that moment, I felt like Pharaoh. I felt like I was burying myself with my riches. I had all of this valuable stuff sitting there in my home that I wasn't doing anything with. I wasn't using this shirt. I wasn't using most of the stuff that I had. It was sitting there collecting dust as I hoarded it so that nobody else could have it. And it only hit me just then And so I crumpled the shirt, threw it on the floor, shouted at it for some reason. I'm not sure why. I was more upset with myself than the shirt. And then I went through the rest of my drawer. And I held up each object and said, is this valuable to me? Not is it just valuable, because almost everything is valuable to someone. Is it valuable to me? And in the case of my clothing, it was really easy. I could say, have I worn this in the last month? And if not, it went on the floor. And I went through the entire drawer, pulled out all the shirts I hadn't worn, went through the next drawer, all of my pants, went through the closets, all of my jackets and my shoes, went through the office, all of the computers. I had a bunch of spare computers for some reason. All the extra tools and notebooks and art supplies, all of these things I went through to see what I was actually getting value from. Very little of it. Like 95% of everything I owned was there on the floor. And the pile was so big, I had to take an entire room in my flat to store it all. I had a room full of stuff I wasn't using, that I was hoarding like Pharaoh. And there's a word for this. There's a word not for hoarding, not for that. There's many words for that, none of them good. But there's a word for what I was doing, iteratively going through my life and questioning the things I took for granted. It's called intentionality. And intentionality, it's not a scary word. It's something that we build up, I think, very often. But all it means is doing things on purpose. And that does require that you have a purpose, that you have some kind of goal off in the horizon. But once you have that, once you understand what you want to achieve, where you want to go, acting intentionally just means looking at all the different aspects of your life and saying, does this help me get there? And so getting rid of those things was a step that helped me get to where I wanted to be. And intentionality is something that applies to all aspects of your life. When we apply it to the things, the possessions in our life, we tend to call this minimalism very often. That's kind of the common moniker for it these days, which is great. And all minimalism is focusing on the core of what's important, whatever that happens to mean to you, and getting rid of the excess. Getting rid of all the stuff that doesn't matter, so that you free up more time, energy, and resources to spend on the things that do matter. So it's a reallocation of your efforts and attention and your money, basically. So if I spend less on the things that don't matter, I have more to spend on the things that do matter. It's an incredibly simple thing, and yet it's something that we tend to forget, because there's a lot of messages telling us that to be someone, we have to own this thing, we have to own this brand. We have to stand with this group and be represented by this tribe. And it's obviously not true. Like, we're never more ourselves than when we're buying and surrounding ourselves with exactly the things that serve us, that give us value, and nothing more than that. But that's not very lucrative for a lot of these companies that have things that they want to sell a lot of. And so you have to pay a lot of attention and really focus on intentionality in order to remember this as you're making purchases. Now, the same thing applies to relationships. And this is something that a lot of us don't think of, like ever, because it's not polite, frankly. Because just as intentionality with your stuff means going through your things and saying which of these is valuable and which of them is dead weight, going through your relationships and doing the same means looking at them and saying which of these is the most vitally important relationships in my life. Which of these is just good, friendships and relationships of convenience, the person you sit next to at work, the person that you happen to go to school with, the person who happens to live next door. Valuable relationships, but maybe not the things that should have all of your time. They're great in context, but these are not your best friends. These are not your significant others. These are not your family. And then there's those relationships that drain us, that are actually net negatives on our lives. And we tend to invest a lot in these because it's not polite to step out of a friendship, to step away from a family member, to give them less of your time if they are actively harmful to you in your life, if they are a toxic relationship. Being intentional with your relationships, though, it means really being truthful with yourself and saying, is this person who deserves more of my time and attention and energy? Do they? And if not, if the answer is no, free up that time and take it and give it to the people who truly do, the people who really add to your life, who really make you feel better, who help you get to where you want to be. That's the root of intentionality. It's doing it on purpose, forming relationships and maintaining relationships on purpose, and making sure those really, really, truly valuable people in your life get the attention from you that they deserve. Now, the same applies to work. This is also a very unpopular thing to say, because we judge our work and our success within work based on usually just one metric. How much money are you making? That's what shows if you're successful, if the family is proud of you. But really, at the end of the day, that's just one metric. Money's great. I mean, I'm not anti-money. You need it. You need to have a roof over your head. You need to have food on your table. You need to provide a basic level of security for yourself and the people around you. But if you're acting intentionally, if you're doing work on purpose, that means that you're looking at that bigger goal, that place that you want to be, and questioning every choice that you make within your profession. And saying, does this help me get to that place where I want to be? That place where I'm more myself than I've ever been before, where I'm incredibly happy, where I'm fulfilled on a deeper level, and I feel like I'm doing work that is valuable, not just to me in the paycheck sense, but to somebody beyond me. I feel like I'm contributing in some way. And once you're able to question that, you've looked at the three core components of a healthy lifestyle. And each and every one of us has a different idea of what the ideal lifestyle is, a different idea of the people that we want in our lives, the things that we want to have surrounding us, because if you buy the right things, things actually can earn you happiness. Money can buy happiness if you buy the right things. The people in our life and the work that we do day to day. These are all things that, when in aggregate, allow us to live a lifestyle that, when you look at it, it's you. This is something that represents me. The lifestyle that I live, the incredibly bizarre lifestyle, where I travel around and write all kinds of books. My readers vote on where I go. What's that about? It's strange, but it looks just like me. And the people who know me well look at it and say, oh yeah, that's totally Colin. That makes perfect sense. And ideally, each and every one of us can look at our lives and say the same thing. These people I surround myself with, the stuff that I own, this work that I'm doing, this is an accurate representation of who I am. That's the ideal. And each and every one of us should be proud to have our own individual path toward that greater goal, toward that purpose. When you start to live your life intentionally, it can look a little weird to people. You're like getting rid of your stuff, maybe. It looks very strange to some people. You're maybe buying more intentionally, buying fewer things, hanging out with fewer people. That can be a little bit awkward to have that discussion. And maybe taking on work that isn't as lucrative. It's not earning you as much. It doesn't have the same prestigious job title. And at the end of the day, you may experience some pushback. People may try to dissuade you from moving in the direction that you want to move in. And that's okay. You know, these are not people who are horrible people. These are people that are actually very well-meaning people. Because if you look at, like, the standard path that we're offered, pretty much from birth up until we die, you know, this is the path. This is where you start, and then you do this, this, and this, and then victory. You end up at that finish line at some point. That path is like a great big highway. It's an autobahn. Okay, it's well paved, it's well lit. There's lots of signs everywhere telling you exactly how to get there to this goal. And if you start moving toward a different goal, you've moved off that well-lit path. Maybe there's potholes, maybe it's not paved. Maybe it's like a little goat road, like you're just swerving off to the side, and very few people are taking it, so they don't even bother to put up signs. Maybe your lifestyle choice is so obscure, nobody's done it before, and so you're like carving your way through the woods to try to get to some unknown path. And so the people in your life will look at that and say, what the actual hell are they doing? I'm concerned for them. Where will they end up? There's so many risks associated with this. And they're totally right. Because people who care about you, they want more than anything else for you to be happy and secure. And when you start acting intentionally, when you start questioning everything in your life, and living on purpose, your purpose, it can look very insecure. It can be less structurally stable. And so it makes sense that they would question that, and that they should question what you're doing and give you that valuable feedback. But at the end of the day, all you can do to convince them to show them that this is something that's important to you, and that you're not going to take ridiculous risks, you're just trying to be happy, you're trying to be more you, is to show them the benefits. Tell them what you're up to, certainly, but then show them with the way that you live, that you are happy, that you're making smart decisions, that this is something that allows you to feel fulfilled in a way that that highway never could. And if they don't get it, that's okay. Everybody has a different path. They have theirs and you have yours. And try to forgive. Don't hold it against them. Not everybody has the opportunity to take that step back and look at their life and then question everything. It's not everything that, or it's not a luxury that all of us are afforded. But whichever direction you start heading, and whichever life choice you make, do your best to be happy, do your best to be fulfilled, do your best to lay signs for other people who might follow behind you so that they can do the same. And ultimately, however you live, do your best to live on purpose. Thank you very much.